So, to understand a little bit why we celebrate Lag BaOmer, why do we celebrate the 33rd day of the Omer, which also is the 18th day of Iyar? So we said that the Talmud says, the Gemara says, that the students of Rabbi Akiva died from Pesach till Shavuos. There's a tradition from the times of the Goyim, that's post-Talmudic, that they only died for 33 of those days. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons why we celebrate Lag BaOmer, and then to understand what the deeper reason is, what unifies all these 5 reasons, and really to answer the big question of why do we mourn something that happened thousands of years ago, a few thousand students of Rabbi Akiva died. Why do we mourn that event more than any other event in Jewish history, or much more prominently than at most events in Jewish history, negative events in Jewish history? Why is it such an important event? So there are 5 ways how to see the reason why we celebrate Lag BaOmer. We'll start from the Shulchan Aruch and we'll go forward. In the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Mechaber, writes that since there's a tradition from the Goyim that they only died 33 and 34 of these days, the Mechaber says that the 33 days starts from the second day, from the day of Sfira, from the day of Pesach, and they died up until the 34th day of the Sfira. Mixas al Yom Kikule, part of the day is as if they did a whole day. So therefore, the Mechaber says from the 34th day forward, the first 34 days of the Sfira, means up until the 19th day of Iyar, a person shouldn't have haircuts, and shouldn't get married, and shouldn't play music. But from the 34th day onward, according to Rabbi Yosef Karo, that's when they stopped dying, the plague was over, and therefore it's a time to celebrate. But according to Rabbi Yosef Karo, it's important to understand that he would say that it's not Lag BaOmer that we should celebrate, but Lad BaOmer, the 34th day of Omer. But this is one opinion. The Ramar, Moshe Islish, which wrote the glossary on the Mechaber, he writes that no, that they didn't die from the second day of Pesach till the 34th day of, or the 18th, 19th day of Iyar, till the 34th day of the Omer, but instead they died from Rosh Chodesh Iyar up until 3 days before Shavuos, the 30 days of Iyar, and the 3 days before Shavuos in Sivan. That's the 30-day period. So what happens Lag BaOmer? So the Ramah writes that there's a tradition that on that day of Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of Omer, they didn't die. So even though they died the day before and the day afterwards, so according to the Ramah, there's something very special about the actual day of Lag BaOmer that the students did not die. Something mysterious happened. The whole thing is a mysterious thing, that they died. But for one day they stopped dying, the next day they continued dying. According to Mechaber, according to Rabbi Yosef Karo, they stopped dying, period, and the plague was over. But according to Ramah, there was one day that they didn't die. The third opinion is the opinion of the Maharil, that he says, no, there's a tradition that they only died 33 of those days, because they really died from the second day of Pesach till 3 days before Shavuos, and the entire period. However, if you they didn't die on Shabbos, according to the Maharil, and on Yom Tov. So there are 7 Shabbosim, there are 7 days of Pesach, there are 3 days of Rosh Chodesh, that's 17 days. So in total, eliminate 17 days from that period of time, of the 49 days, you're left with 33 days. So the Maharil says, on the 33rd day, symbolically, we celebrate the ending of the plague, even though on Lag BaOmer itself, they died. They died on Lag BaOmer, they died on Lad BaOmer, if it was not on Shabbos, right? They only did not die on Shabbos and on Yom Tov and Rosh Chodesh. Therefore, the 33rd day, symbolically, we celebrate the day as a day of the ending of the plague, of the death of the students of Rabbi Akiva. That's another opinion. Okay, so we have these 3 opinions. The 4th opinion, which is the opinion of the Maharsha, he says that they died throughout the entire period, probably like the Maharil, but he says that there's something that's called a minor majority and supermajority. That once, if you divide the 49 days into 3, you have 16 and a third, 3 periods of 16 and a third. So when you reach 2/3 of the days of Sfira already passed, that means the intensity of Sfira is already over. That's on the 33rd day of the Omer. So therefore we celebrate because the intensity of those days are already over. Again, nothing happened particularly on that day. I'm sorry, nothing happened particularly on that day in terms of not dying, but since it's the ending of this harsh decree, or it's already the supermajority of the days already passed, like later Mukabalim say the Lag Ba'omer, you have the first 32 days is Lev, and the last 70 days is Tov. So you have Lev Tov. The first 30 days represent the heart, and that's the work that has to be done. The second part of from Lag Ba'omer forward, the 17 days, is Tov, the same numeric value. So that's the fourth opinion. The fifth opinion, which is the more known one, is that it's the day that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai passed away. Or it's a day that's called Yom Simchas Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Now the idea that it's a day celebrating Reb Shimon Bar Yochai in itself is a very puzzling thing. On the one hand, we're saying that we celebrate this entire times of sphere, that we don't play music and it's a national mourning. On the other hand, we're saying that we're celebrating the death of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Now we know Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was one of the students, one of the 5 remaining students of Rabbi Akiva. So in Kisvei Arizal, in the writings of the Ari, it says that Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer, is Yom Simchas Rashbi. In some printings it says Shemes Rashbi. The Ches was missing according to the Chidah. And really it shouldn't say the day that Rashbi passed away, but it should be the day that it's a joyful day for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Now most later Mukabalim say no, it's a day that we actually celebrate, coming from Mishnah Chassidim, that we celebrate it's a time that Rashbi passed away. So why do we celebrate the passing of the Rashbi? It's very unusual. Usually when a person passes away, it's a time to mourn, or a time to be introspective, a chayit and liba. It's a serious time. Why is it a time of celebration on the time that Rashbi? So I think there's 5 reasons over here that are offered. One is that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai actually asked that it be a time of celebration. That's in the Mishnah Chassidim. Another thing is that Rabbi Akiva, according to the Bnei Yissaschar, I'm not sure how you knew this, but maybe through Ruach HaKodesh, she said that Lag BaOmer is also the day that Rashbi was born. The Aruch HaShulchan writes that it's the day that Rashbi left the cave. Also, we don't know where the source is from, and the Aruch HaShulchan writes it. Some suggest that the Talmud that speaks about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai leaving the cave is in Tractate Shabbos, page 33. So maybe it's an allusion to that idea that they left on the 33rd day. And another answer is that that's the day that Rashbi revealed a lot of secrets of the Zohar. Okay, let's understand the day of his passing. He revealed the Idra, which incidentally, what does the Idra speak about? Imagine, what would the Idra speak about? Here. Of course. Here. The Idra is about here, the mystery of here. In Parshas Naseh, the Idra is a very deep part of the Zohar, which, according to the tradition, that's the part that Rashbi revealed on Lag BaOmer, the day that he passed away. And in the Idra, he speaks about the mystery of here as one of the greatest mysteries of creation. So, again, let's try to understand this, all these things together. So, they die, he lives. What's really going on with Lag BaOmer? It's a strange thing why we mourn for so long, and it's a strange thing why we celebrate for so long and so strong. So we have to go back very quickly. We don't have that much time, but we'll go back very quickly to that period of time. If we understand the historical context of that period of time, everything becomes clear. In the year 70 Common Era is when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Who destroyed the Beis HaMikdash? Titus, right? Titus destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. Vespasian was his father. That was the year of the 4 emperors. Vespasian became the emperor of Rome. He needed a great military victory. He sent his son, and his son destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. According to the writings of the Romans, the intention of the Romans was never to destroy the second Beis HaMikdash. It was a mistake. It was a flare that lit up in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and that's how everything caught fire and it burnt down. But that was never the intention of the Romans. In fact, I just want to tell you this something historically, that the Maharal says that it could be true that the intentions of the Romans were not to destroy the second temple, the second Beis HaMikdash, but me'atoiv yatsa toiv, from good comes good, and from negative comes negative. The fact that it was destroyed was intentional. Why am I telling you this? Because if you lived after the Beis HaMikdash, after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, if you lived through that period of time, this is a very, very troubling time in Jewish history, because we Jews lived in Eretz Yisrael for 1,000 years, over 1,000 years. We had a Beis HaMikdash. We had a central place that we worshiped, a place that if we needed something, we went. We had a Kohen Gadol. It was very clear that we were a localized people. There was a place that we served Hashem, and the practices were very simple. It was laid out. We bring offerings, and this is what we do. Now the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed. What's now? What do we do now? What's the next step in Jewish history? What are we supposed to be doing? A few years later, 50 years later, there was a fellow by the name of Bar Kochva, or Bar Kozva. That what Rabbi Kiva called him Bar Kochva. Bar Kochva, Rabbi Kiva said, Bar Kochva, this general, started a rebellion to throw out the Romans from Israel. The intention of Bar Kochva was to throw the Romans out of Israel and to build a Beis HaMikdash, to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. And Rabbi Akiva not only believed in this mission, Rabbi Akiva was the forerunner of this mission. Rabbi Akiva was the one that said that Bar Kochva is Mashiach. He called him the Bar Kochva, that a star will rise from Yaakov. Rabbi Akiva said, and Rabbi Akiva was then the most important Torah scholar, the most important Talmud Chacham of that generation. Rabbi Akiva said that this Bar Kochva, who eventually amassed a group of close to 250,000 soldiers, rebels, they had some minor military victories during the year 134, 133 period Common Era. Rabbi Akiva said this person is going to bring Mashiach. So what is Rabbi Akiva, what's the anticipation? What is Rabbi Akiva hoping for? Rabbi Akiva is hoping that he throws the Romans out, they build the Beis HaMikdash, but not just the Beis HaMikdash, the temple, just like the second Beis HaMikdash, but to actually usher in the time of Mashiach. Right? World peace and the King of Israel. And Rabbi Akiva, this is Rabbi Akiva's the way Rabbi Akiva is thinking. So he has 24,000 Talmidim. We can imagine. It's interesting that Rabbi Shreya Goyen, one of the Goyenim, write that the Gemara is very cryptic about how the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva died. It says they died. We know why they died. They died because they didn't have derech eretz, right? They didn't know Gukav and Zelazet, didn't have respect for each other. But how they died, so it says Misasa Ba'askara, maybe they choked, it could be hunger, and Rav Shlomo Goyen actually says it was probably religious persecution. Now, whether the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva were actually physically soldiers of Bar Kochva, or, which incidentally Bar Kochva also dies from the same mysterious death, he also dies by Askara, and whether they were physically soldiers or they were the spiritual soldiers. Rabbi Akiva is creating, in his idea, Rabbi Akiva is creating a Mashiach time, a Mashiach reality. He's training his Talmidim, probably teaching them karbanos, teaching them how to sacrifice, how to bring karbanos, right? They're going to be the new generation of Mashiach. So, when the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva pass away, it's not just that they died. Sadly, there's a lot of historical stories. Judaism, as we knew it, passed away. And not only that, the dream that Mashiach was imminent died. That Mashiach was right here because there was a person, a living, walking person, that we said this person is Mashiach, and he was starting to build the Beis HaMikdash. According to some opinions, historical opinions, Bar Kochva actually started building the Beis HaMikdash, the third Beis HaMikdash. So this was a very high time. And then Rabbi Akiva's students died. And then Rabbi Akiva is killed himself, right, in the year 135 Common Era. It's the end of a period. So the reason why we mourn the death of the students of Rabbi Akiva is not just we're mourning the death of particular people that passed away, it's the death of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism, the way it existed in the times of the Beis HaMikdash. Why do we contrast that and celebrate Lag BaOmer? Because Rabbi gave us a path and a way to conquer and to overcome exile. Rabbi Akiva felt that we have to bring Mashiach and actually build a Beis HaMikdash and do it. Now that it didn't happen, what did Rabbi come? Rabbi was the revealer of the Zohar. And what does it say in the beginning of the Zohar? With this book, the people will be redeemed with Rachmanas, with compassion. So the Sefer HaZohar, the Pnimis HaTorah, the inner essence of the Torah, is what sustains us through exile. Because if outwardly we can't do the certain practices, because we can't bring karbanos now, we can't bring offerings, but inwardly we can bring offerings. Adam Kiyakim we can bring ourselves closer to Hashem. That's an inward teaching of the Torah. The inward teachings of the Torah allow us to survive in exile, And the inward Pnimis HaTorah, the inward teachings of the Torah, allow us to get out of exile eventually. And that's why we're celebrating the passing of Rabbi. The passing of Rabbi is that era of Rabbi Akiva and his students ended, but Rabbi, the gift that Rabbi gave to us, or Rishim Bar Yochai gave to us, is the Pnimis HaTorah, is the internal aspect of the Torah. And that's why we say that on Lag BaOmer is just like there's a revealing of the Torah on Shavuos, on the Nigla, on the revealed aspects of the Torah. There's Matan Torah of Nigla, of the revealed. The same thing on Lag BaOmer, we celebrate the revealing of Pnimis HaTorah. There's a Matan Torah of Pnimis HaTorah. And that occurs 17 days before the revealing of the Torah of the Nigla Torah, what occurs on Shavuos. And that's what we're celebrating on Lag BaOmer. And that's why Lag BaOmer, there's a lot of ideas that we can connect with this. Lag BaOmer, the word Lag BaOmer has the same numeric value of the word Moshe, 345. Lag BaOmer, according to the Arizal, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is a Gilgal of Moshe Rabbeinu. Lag BaOmer, the day of Lag BaOmer always falls on the fourth day of Sukkot, which is the Shpiz of Moshe, which is the guest of Moshe Rabbeinu. There's a lot of correlations of that idea because we're saying that in Lag BaOmer, Moshe Rabbeinu revealed the Nigla of Torah, the revealed aspect of Torah. Reb Shimon was the one that was given the gift to reveal the inner essence of the Torah, and the inner essence of the Torah is what allows us to survive in exile and eventually overcome our exile. And that's the deeper reason why we celebrate, and that's why it's the greatest celebration of Lag BaOmer.